So I'm back again today, here to talk about Ratchet Clank Rift Apart, primarily to do with the state of play that's going to happen later today in around about 3 hours. But I wanted to go through some of my main hopes for the game, and some of these might be shown off today, other ones I think are probably not as relevant to show off to like the world, and probably things that we'll find out in the full game, or things that might be like clarified on Twitter. But we'll find out. So yeah, obviously they're going to talk later today. I think they're showing off the gameplay because earlier this week they showed off a new trailer for the game with new female Lombax called Rivet. Which, by the way, I think Rivet's such an awesome name, and she's a really cool character design wise. She's got her own melee weapon. It seems like obviously in different dimension you're going to play as her, and obviously she's stolen Clank now as well. So that's something that's going to be interesting. It's always interesting, I think, when Ratchet and Clank do the kind of you play as Ratchet, but you're playing as Ratchet on his own. It kind of adds like different elements to it. I'm interested to know how that's all going to play out as a whole. Like, I guess that's like one thing. I don't actually think I've written it on here about as a point, but one kind of hope is that like it's gonna have like a decent story. And I'm not like super like I don't. Story's not the thing I think I look forward to for Ratchet and Clank, but I do think that it's going to be interesting to just see the kind of Rivet and how she's going to like work in with the narrative of the game. So yeah, that's kind of one, but I guess going into like the actual list here that I've got written down for my main hopes for the game, I think one that is probably one that I've not really got too much worry about is I'm hoping there's gonna be like a good variety of like weapons and gadgets. I think gadgets is probably the one that I'm not too sure about if they're gonna do much of, because if you go back to like the first Ratchet games and even the second, they have like gadgets that are kind of like used for puzzles, for getting into the door. So the Trespasser was one of those main ones in the first game, and I don't really know how. To be fair, this all depends on how linear the game's going to be, and from what they've shown, it looks kind of linear, but it is also only like small bits of gameplay we've seen, so it's possible that it's not going to be super linear. So we'll find out about that. But yeah, in terms of weapons, I don't really have too much worry, about how it's going to be. How Insomniac are going to handle that, because they've basically always had like really cool weapons, and in fact they even have sort of spoken about the fact that the Dualsense controller is going to take use of some of the features. Sorry, the game's going to take use of, where like they mentioned like the shotgun has like you pull like the trigger halfway down and it fires one barrel, but you pull it fully like all the way down and it fires both barrels. And I think elements like that for a Ratchet and Clank game in terms of the weapons is honestly really cool, because it adds more depth to each of the weapons. So yeah, I hope there's like a good variety of weapons and gadgets. As I said, generally don't have too much worry about that. I think that's probably going to be fine. As we kind of, I think the rest of these are things I'm not too sure if it will definitely have, bar a couple of them. But the next one I've got here is to do with exploration and planet hopping. E.g., I hope planets, when we go to them, aren't going to be just a linear path. Like, I hope it's going to be, maybe you can go off to the left and go down a route. And not just for a collectible, for like an actual, side mission sort of, but kind of the way that Ratchet used to do them. They were like side missions, but it wasn't like RPG style flashing up on your screen like, oh, like new quest, it's not like that. But just so, like, when you land on a new planet or you go to a new place, it's not like you're just appearing there, just doing your job. You're going there and it's like a new place, and you're like, well, I want to know what's around there. And they can hide different gadgets, or it could be collectibles, but they can hide different things in those places that can link into like either the upgrade systems or the weapons. So I think, yeah, some kind of more exploratory kind of gameplay. And I think to tie into that, something that they haven't shown off, and I'm a bit too unsure if this is going to be like obviously the game's going to have it, or maybe it won't, but when you play like the older games, and in fact I think all of the games, to be fair, more or less, all of the mainline ones, including the 2016 reimagining, they have like planet hopping, where you're actually going to get in your ship and you're going to fly to other planets. And they've introduced like the rift mechanic within Rift Apart, from what they've shown, where you kind of seemingly just like hop through rifts, but I think they did say in an interview that's only going to be for like set pieces and set moments of the game. So hopefully that's not just going to be your way to travel. Because I know they want to show it for loading times, and visually and technically, when they show those elements off in that gameplay and in those moments, it is really impressive because of the fact that everything's loading so quick. But when it comes to like the point, like the kind of the progression and structure of the game, I hope it is set up so that you kind of go to different planets and you get in your ship and you can go anywhere whenever you want, and there's multiple reasons to go to each planet that are kind of relevant, not necessarily to the story overall, but to either to the world and just the kind of building up of the world that it's in, but also rewarding in the game as like genuine rewards. Like Ratchet and Clank, like the older games, had all sorts that you could kind of find as you kind of explore different ways. I think even Ratchet and Clank: A Crack in Time had modifications to weapons that kind of added depth to them. I don't know if they'll go back to that, but that was like one way that you can kind of like add depth more to the weapons on top of the fact that they're going to have the Dualsense integration. So yeah, I think things like that to kind of make it worth. I think a good comparison as well is that The Last of Us Part 2 has this open world, or sort of open large segment where it actually has like worthy reasons to go and explore to places. Like you can get weapons earlier on in the game than otherwise you will eventually get them, but going that way you can sort of get them earlier on. Actually, talking about that, I've been playing Resident Evil 7 recently as well, and in fact, even Resi 7 has that kind of style of thing where it's like, you find, I think all Resident Evil games have that, where you start playing, and at certain points you can find things and secrets and complete puzzles that you can complete earlier on, or just side puzzles that then net you extra rewards that can help you or get you something earlier or something like that. And I think those elements were something that make old Ratchet games, like when you go back to them, really cool. And it makes exploring every part of the planet kind of something you want to do, because there's like an actual proper reward. It's not just like oh, what's around this corner? Is there a collectible? So I hope there's going to be a few things that kind of send you off. Is what people say, off the beaten path, something like that. Yeah, So to make each path kind of rewarding. As I said, so far what they've shown seems linear, but it is also just gameplay, so I'm not really going to expect them to show off super exploratory gameplay as gameplay, or as like the reveals, which might be shown today, in fact, because if they are going through, they said it's 15 minutes of gameplay or around about that. I don't know if that's like one entire stretch, but as it's part of a state of play, I want to say it might be similar to how the Ghost of Tsushima one was, where they started showing off the different elements of the game and the open world, the upgrade stuff. That's what I'm thinking this will be, but maybe we've still got a lot to go, actually, because there is still, there's 6 weeks to go, so I'm thinking it's got to show off a good amount of the game, at least. But we'll find out and see what it has. But yeah, if they might show some of that exploration sort of style gameplay, if they are showing more kind of just like the game in its downtime and the game in its combat kind of thing, so I hope there's a good balance there. So I think here's where I end up in a bit more of a miscellaneous sort of section, but I think they are elements that make the Ratchet and Clank games like core to like they're iconic elements of the games that seem to crop up a lot in the older games that I don't think cropped up as much as time went on. So one thing I've got to set optional arenas and locations. I read arena as area, which basically ties into the last thing anyway. But yeah, in playing, so I replayed Ratchet 1 a few times, and I replayed Ratchet 2 mostly a few months ago, which I'm planning to get back to finish 2 and then 3 and then Gladiator. But what I found in those games is that you have these arenas that are like survival based. Some of them have like unique challenges, and I don't think I super love them, but I do like the additional content and the kind of addition of them as part of the game. I think it does just add more to play, and I think for when you're playing through those for the first time, it's really cool. I remember one of my favourite things, and I know Call of Duty has a variation of this kind of thing in their sharpshooter mode, but they have one of the arenas in one of the Ratchet games. They have it where your weapon changes every 45 seconds, and I think it was 45 seconds in those games. But yeah, your weapon would change every 45 seconds, and you would rotate through all of the weapons or whatever. I don't know if it's all the weapons in the game or if it's just all you had available. But they were always cool to me. I don't know why, but that was always an element that I thought was cool. Forcing you into one weapon to kind of survive with. Though it did suck when you got something like the sniper, where it's let's zoom, and the zooming with the sniper is really awkward when you're in fast-paced combat. But yeah, so I think that, and I think on top of that, a big element that I never really, I remember seeing bits of, and it's something I will eventually go back to when I play the games, properly, or as I'm going through them again, is the Insomniac museums. And as I said, when I was younger, I went there and I remember them vaguely. But they were these really cool, like, behind the scenes segments. And I'm probably going to reference the Gaming Bridge show a lot through talking about a lot of games, especially like Ratchet games, because he's done some really good videos on them. But one thing he said was that movies have like visual, like you watch behind the scenes footage that shows you how the thing was made, whereas Ratchet, the Insomniac Museum, actually lets you kind of play some of that stuff and lets you interact with it. And he was saying that makes sense for a game, as you would expect that on like a bonus DVD in your films, you would kind of expect games to have that in a playable form. And so, to show things that were maybe that were cut from the game or couldn't be in, I actually don't know if they'll have the Insomniac Museum back again. I think they did have a small room in the garage that you start on Veldin in the Ratchet Clank 2016, the reimagining. But that was really nothing in comparison to what it was in like Ratchet Clank 2 and I think 3. I don't know about any of the other games if they have them. But I think something like that. Actually, I think Insomniac Museum is in Ratchet Clank: A Crack in Time, and I don't know about how you enter it. But I remember I got like a limited edition of the game that said it has like access to that. I don't know if that's like a pre-order thing or if it was like a limited edition thing you had to buy separately or something. But I think a lot of these things I can't remember because it was so long since I played them, and I was hoping to go through all of the old games before Rift Apart, but we are like 6 weeks away from the game coming out, so is it 6 weeks or is it like 7? It's probably like 6 or 7 weeks. So yeah, I don't know if I'll actually get around to doing playing all of them. But my hope is that I'm going to get through 2, 3, and Gladiator, and hopefully platinum all 3 of them, because I've already platinumed the first game. So yeah, I would hope that they can have some optional arenas and some extra locations like that. They just add to some of the side, content, and I think one thing I guess I could add to this is like maybe some space battle segments, and I didn't love those in the old games, and I'm not going to be super bothered if they don't return, but I do. I think it's a crack in time where you actually have radio stations as you're flying your ship in space, and it's like things like that I don't really know how they hold up and what they're like going back to, but I do think elements like that again just adds to making the game more like there's a lot more to play kind of thing, and that kind of leads into the next couple of things that I'm going to talk about. Is that, well, Insomniac said this is going to be a full-length game. It's a full, like, built from the ground up for the PS5. And so my hope is, in terms of length, this game is going to be pretty long. It's not going to be like, because 2016 was fairly short from what I remember. I'm hoping this is going to be one that's going to have a lot of things to find, a lot of weapons to get, a lot of upgrades. It's going to have a lot of longevity to it. Not only to finish it first time, but also to then link into replayability and specifically challenge mode returning, or, as it's more commonly known, New Game Plus. Because I had this thing with like old retro games where I just really liked starting them from the beginning because you could level up your weapons, and I was enjoying games starting with nothing and like working your way up to acquiring more. I think that's why games like Destiny appeal to me a lot, because they are games that are built on you building a character and leveling them up and getting better over time. And obviously in the case of Destiny, they've got like, a seasonal model now and yearly things, and so those elements to kind of hook you in, to kind of make it feel like as you're playing, you're like getting stronger, and the game's getting more difficult, but you're also getting stronger and you're getting new abilities and new unlock. I think any game that does that in like a really just like well-designed fashion is just really cool, because it makes you want to replay the game, at least for me. And it also makes it more fun to replay. It's like you might want to replay a game for the story, but if you have all of this layered on top of it, I feel like the game becomes a lot more, has a lot more depth and intrigue than it would otherwise have without those systems. Because, it's like, I love the Uncharted series, but to be fair, I don't want to replay them necessarily for, like, the gameplay systems and how everything works, because at its core, the gameplay's pretty bare bones. It's pretty basic kind of thing. It's really well made and put together, but it doesn't have the depth, and it's like, that's why games like The Last of Us, I think, appeal more on a replay, because you have, it's got crafting, you've got upgrades to find on new, I think they even launched with a New Game Plus, and speaking about New Game Plus, is God of War 2018 didn't launch with a New Game Plus, they added that later, which was something that God of War 1, 2, 3, and I believe Ascension, and Ghost of Sparta and Chains of Olympus, all of those games had a New Game Plus into the game from launch. Bearing in mind, they were obviously a game that you couldn't update over time. Well, God of War 3 probably could have been, but you know what I mean. And probably Ascension as well, but they had it baked into part of the base game. And similarly, I hope that's what happens here with Ratchet. I hope I don't finish the game, and then they're like, that's it, you're done with the game kind of thing, unless you want to just mess around on the planets. And if there's nothing else to find on the planets, but you still need to get your weapons leveled up, where are you going to go? So to me, I really hope that they are going to have challenge. But I think this is one of the biggest things that I want. I want it to have challenge mode. I want that New Game Plus, and not only in its existence, but I want to replay the game. I want it to become more difficult, and I want it to have the extra variants of every single weapon, like they had in the old games. I believe I'm not too sure on every game, but they are called, at least in some of them, they're called the Omega variants of weapons. And essentially every weapon you can level up to 1 to 5, which they've shown in gameplay, that's returning. Your health upgrade is returning, I think, as well. Really awesome to see that. But you can also then, when you beat the game, you then, on a replay, you can then purchase the Omega variants of these weapons. And so I'm hoping that they're going to have that. Now, there are upgrade systems. I imagine 2016's upgrade systems with using Raritaniums returning. They did mention that Raritanium is a pre-order, deluxe edition. They're giving like 20 Raritanium if you get the deluxe edition, which I'm going to get the deluxe pack, but I'll buy it once I finish the game, because I don't want to get any like early access or like super easy. I don't want the game giving me stuff easy earlier on, so I'll buy that when I finish the game to get the extra skins and stuff. But that is actually another point. They've got armor sets, but they seem more cosmetic, so I don't know if they're going to have armor upgrades. They've got health upgrades by looks things and weapon upgrades. But yeah, when you replay the game, I hope they can have the Omega variants of weapons where you buy them and then you take them from level 5. You take them from 5 to 10. Maybe they'll go higher. I think Ratchet Gladiator went higher, but Ratchet Gladiator was like super laser focused on the combat side of the game, so that makes sense. But yeah, I think that's like kind of the main things then to talk about. And yeah, I really do hope. I think, as I said, the New Game Plus and replayability factor is something that is like really key to me for this game, because I think it's important for the game, and I want it to feel like, especially as it's been nearly 5 years, or it will have been about 5 years. I think it would have been more than 5 years, just over, when the game comes out, since 2016. But since the last like mainline entry that this Rift Apart is actually continuing on from, which was Into the Nexus, that came out in 2013. I think it was in August 2013 or something, or like late 2013. So hopefully, as it would have been about 7 to 8 years, I want this to be like a fully fledged Ratchet game with everything that like previous Ratchet games have had, and just so it's like, I finally have a Ratchet game on a current generation platform that has a lot of depth and has a lot of expansion in its areas and things like that. Because I don't think 2016 really did that too well. And the Gaming Brit Show also has a video on that, where he goes through about how he didn't really like it at all, and I enjoy it for what it is. But I think, yeah, when you replay the first game and then you replay 2016. I don't think 2016 is awful, but 2016 has a lot less charm, and from a story standpoint, they miss a large part of the Ratchet and Clank like duo sort of relationship and how the character building and things like that. On top of gameplay being like a lot easier, and that, I guess that's something else. I hope the game's not super easy. Now, I don't know if they're going to have difficulty modes. If they do, I typically play games on normal at first, because I want to finish the game first, but then I like replay later on hard. But this is where I get onto like a massive thing for me, that now Spider-Man had it, Ratchet and Clank 2016 didn't, but all of the other Ratchet and Clank games, from my knowledge, do have it. I really hope there's going to be multiple save slots. Please, for the love of God, put multiple save slots in, because when I want to replay 2016, I literally have to overwrite my current save. So I went, and I think I was going to replay it on hard, but I actually ordered a USB stick because my current one didn't work on the PS5, so I could copy that save over, so I could keep automatic saves on, so I didn't like forget that, so I didn't back up other save dates in case I needed it. But then, so I've now copied that, so I have my completed 100% save on this new USB stick, and I've got a hard mode playthrough starting from the beginning that might have gameplay going on. That's probably what's on screen now. But yeah, so I can have that. But multiple save slots, I don't know why games don't have multiple save slots as much now, but we need multiple save slots, please. That's like a big key thing that I want to see again. I want to see games having multiple save slots. And that is actually, if they're going to have difficulty levels, and they're going to have a challenge mode, and like New Game Plus, and a lot of things you can explore, have multiple save slots. As Spider-Man had it, and from my understanding, Miles Morales also had it. So, logically, it will have it. Something else I haven't written on here, actually, that I guess I wouldn't mind, is that maybe if they did some post-launch stuff. I'm not saying, like, expansions and DLC, but, like, maybe just some extra things they've wanted to add in. I don't know what they could do, really. Photo mode's in the game already, or it will be at launch. I'm sure something post-launch could be, like, an extra difficulty, or, like, stuff like that. I think it's cool. But New Game Plus better be in the game from launch. I'll be really disappointed if it isn't. And I hope that because a lot of these things have been staples for a lot of the previous Ratchet games, they're going to continue to do them here. I even if 2016 wasn't super, like, amazing in a lot of ways, compared to the other games, it still did have a lot of the core elements that made Ratchet Clank cool. And they even had, like, a collectible card game with some, like, lore and stuff on, like, previous Ratchet games, which I thought they were interesting, just as an extra collection game. I like collecting cards in games. I have no idea why, but it just seems cool, and I enjoyed the kind of throwbacks that they had for the game. Throwbacks like old weapons and locations and characters and things. But yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up. I think, like, the last thing I'll say is that I'm glad there's a new Ratchet Clank game, coming out very soon. And I hope that this does. A lot of people have been pretty happy about it and excited about it on Twitter, which is really nice to see. And so I hope that shines through and that people enjoy it, whether they're new to the franchise or have been playing, as a player like me who's played, like, since the first game. I hope people enjoy it, and I hope it sells well. I hope this is, like, something that we can keep getting more of, because I think it's cool to have this kind of game in Sony's lineup, in the first-party lineup. So yeah, and I think I am a little concerned that the game's not going to be exactly what I want overall. That's why I've got this list here of, like, hopes, and some of them are kind of, I'm not too sure, is it going to have them, and I really hope it does. But I am still happy that there's a new Ratchet game, and as I said when I spoke about post-launch, if New Game Plus isn't at launch, I hope that they do add it later, at least, and I think it should be part of the base game, because I think it's uninteresting when you finish a game and you're like, okay, that's it. I think it's cool to, like, you want to replay it kind of thing, and level things up, and there's more reasons to go back, and so I hope that they do that well. And I guess, yeah, with Rivet being another playable character, I hope there's a good split between Ratchet and Rivet and who you're going to play as. And I wonder if she's going to have her own weapons as well, because I don't know if they've shown many weapons for her, but I'm interested to know if she'll have her own set of weapons. Yeah, and maybe they'll make it so that once you beat the game, you could play as any of the two characters if they wanted to break the story, just so you could have fun with each character's weapon set, or whatever, or recorded voice lines. I mean, it's about dimensions, so, like, I guess they could probably throw it out there as, like an alt mode, where it's like, the game's always been Rivet and Clank, and suddenly you go in and, oh, there's a male Lombax, what? And it's Ratchet, and I think something like that would be actually quite interesting to see, but that's a random idea, but yeah, really excited, as I said, looking forward to what they're going to show tonight. Rivet looks like she's an awesome character, and I said, Rivet is such a cool name. It's one of my favourite things about her. But yeah, I think that'll wrap it up here, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what they talk about later today, and I might make another video talking about my thoughts on what they show. That might be either tomorrow if I feel like it, or if not, we'll wait until, like, next week. Depends how much they've got and what else is going through, because Returnal comes out tomorrow, and I wasn't going to buy Returnal. I'd said I wasn't going to buy it because I wasn't too sure if I wanted to pay full price for it, but I've pre-ordered it. Seen a lot of good things that people are saying about it, but I caved, so I was like, okay, we'll check this out, and it'll be my first proper PS5 game. I have DMC5 SE, but I've barely played any. I don't think I've played anything of it, and is DMC5 already played it? I was meant to play as Virgil, but yeah, but the Returnal will be my first proper PS5 only game. So I'll be interested to see what it's like. But yeah, I'll start talking now. Let me know what you guys think to Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, what you want from it, if you're new to the games. Let me know your thoughts on just Ratchet as a whole, and what you think of what they've shown so far. And yeah, I'll see you next time. So, ciao, ciao, ciao.
But first, they'd have to tackle a brain-eating zombie T-Rex.